welcome. Today is a monumental day for the Royal Couch. We are here with another amazing interview with the one and the only 2020 presidential candidate, Howie Hawkins. Guys, he is the co-founder of he is a co-founder of the Green Party. He is an American activist, American trade unionist, an environmental activist from New York. He is also the 2020 presidential nominee for the Green Party, guys. Today is going to be historic for the Royal Couch, and I cannot wait to continue and have an amazing conversation with Mr. Howie Hawkins. Guys, I want you to know that throughout this month, guys, we have a lot of great, amazing guests coming to you, guys, from actors to directors to this presidential nominee, guys. Make sure y'all stay tuned for the Royal Couch as we are here every Monday and Tuesday for the rest of the month. And sometimes we'll have an occasional Thursday thrown in there. But make sure y'all stay around. It's going to be lit. It's going to be exciting. Let's get it. Without further ado, Mr. Howie Hawkins. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm learning how to use this Instagram. So I'm here anyway.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on here. Honestly, you are making this such a monumental moment for the Royal Couch. So I thank you for you coming on here and agreeing to speak with me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great, great. So thank you once again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, how was your day? How is your day going? Let's start off with that.
Uh, Pretty good. Every day I do a list of things to do. Then people start calling me and adding to it. I'm having a technical
I
issue
can imagine.
on Instagram.
Me being one of those people.
Yeah, so I should be 2/3 of the way through my list. I'm about 1/3. So, yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So we do it a little bit different here, Howie, Mr. Howie Hawkins. We like to kind of get to know our guests, and I want to kind of go. We have a structure where we go past, present, and then future, right? I want to kind of go into a little bit of little Howie Hawkins growing up, and what was your ambitions and your goals as a young kid growing up? From where you were from, and was presidency always in your mindset?
Oh no, no! I was a kid. I wanted to replace Willie Mays in center field for the San Francisco Giants. That was my ambition from as early as I can remember.
Mm, mm.
So
So what?
politics, I followed politics actually from a young age. It was the 1960s, civil rights movement, anti-Vietnam War movement. But I just saw myself as, just a soldier in the army, not somebody take a leadership position.
Right, right, right. So in moving forward, what was your life like? Had you experienced some struggles? Have you experienced a great life? What was your childhood like growing up?
Well, my family circumstances were pretty comfortable. We'd have to worry about food. Um, it was really, I was a jock and I was attracted to what we called the movement with a capital T, capital M. First it was civil rights, then it was anti-Vietnam War. And in the Bay Area, the early ecology movement. So, I was involved in both. I mean, I guess the problem's been still today, not enough time in the day to do it all. So I guess that's been the big problem, just finding time.
Right. So in your experience, you said you got into politics a little bit young, which I think a lot of people do, regardless if they know it or not, because we live this every day. So did you feel like in politics that something had to change? Like when you view the political world, what was in your mindset as a young, soon-to-be politician?
Well, the first thing was civil rights. I mean, to me, that was elementary. And I couldn't believe, that Black people, Mexican people, Asian people were being treated as second-class citizens. And I'm coming up in a community with all kinds of people, little United Nations. I got cousins who are children of one of the first Japanese war brides out of World War II.
Oh
And
wow.
back in the 50s, Japanese, there was an N word for them. And, they were living with the Black folks in those parts of town in the Bay Area. So that kind of discrimination was personal. And then for me, it was 1964. Reagan was running around California trying to get a fair housing law repealed by a referendum, and they succeeded that year. And that was the Republican Party. So I said, well, the Democrats, you got these Freedom Democrats from Mississippi challenging the old Dixiecrat segregationists. So I was watching the Democrats. They sat the segregationists and told the Dixiecrats, we'll give you 2 token seats and, you're going to have to wait some more. So at that age, I'm saying, where's my party? And then right after that election, when everybody said you had to stop crazy Goldwater, Johnson escalated in Vietnam. And so I'm campaigning against the war, and people are saying, well, what are you worried about? Young man, the war will be over by the time you get old enough to get drafted. It was still going on, and I got drafted. So that's how I got involved in politics. As somebody famous once said, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you.
Mm.
So, even people that don't think they're involved in politics, they are. It's happening to them.
I agree with that 100%. 100%. So that fast forwards us, right? And you say, where's your party? So here comes the Green Party. How was that established? Like, how do you have a vision and then allow the rest of the world to see your vision?
Well, the Green Party was going on in Europe before we came here to the United States. In Germany, it was really an expression of what we called the New Left in the 60s. And these people were the feminists, the ecologists, the people that wanted a left that wasn't on either side of the Cold War, not with Moscow, not with Washington, wanted the missiles, the short-range missiles at that time pointed at each other in East and West Germany removed. So they formed their own party and got people elected to the equivalent of our Congress. And then people around the world said, yeah, we need that too. So we got started in 1984. The Germans got into their, what they call their Bundestag, their Congress, in 1983. And so we had a first national organizing meeting in 1984. And so that's how we got going. And, we had 4 pillars that united us: ecology, nonviolence, grassroots democracy, and social justice. And so within that box, everybody's welcome.
Period. So tell me, Howie, and this is a little bit of a personal question, what is really the Green Party to you? Because a lot of people, we have Republicans, we have Democrats that only see the party, but, is the Green Party really the people? What is the Green Party for you?
Well, it's a vehicle for ordinary people to get political power, because the 2 major parties are funded and owned by the super rich, the oligarchs of our country. And, Trump himself claimed to be a billionaire. He may not be a billionaire, but he had a lot of money. And he spoke for a lot of those people, but the Democrats got him too. And I think that's why we don't have Medicare for all, why we don't have a real Green New Deal that will take on the fossil fuel industry, why we don't have a peace policy that gets us out of over 800 foreign military bases and keeps us engaged in all these wars, because the arms manufacturers and all the contractors with the Pentagon play an outsized role in campaign finance. So we got 2 parties. It's a 2 corporate party system of corporate rule. And while they give a little different flavors on the cultural issues, when it comes to economic and foreign policy, they're basically on the same page. They call it a bipartisan foreign policy. And domestically, while they squabble over spending money on poor people, the Democrats want to spend a little more, but not that much. Republicans don't want to spend any. But the basic point is public austerity. There's plenty of money for the Pentagon, but not for education, healthcare, or protection of the environment.
And that is just so that the rich can stay richer, isn't it? As simple as that?
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line motive, and I'm not even sure they sometimes understand that themselves. Because I went to an Ivy League school, a lot of rich folks, and they really kind of feel personally they're superior, they're smarter, and they don't see it about protecting their money. They see it as about getting what they deserve because they are smarter. So while I think, simply that's what it's really about, you get in the heads of some of these folks and they've rationalized what they're doing is in the public interest.
So I want to speak on something you said. You said an enduring peace requires replacing capitalism with eco-socialism. Explain that a little bit better for people that don't quite understand what you mean.
Well, under capitalism, you have competition for profits and accumulation or growth, and all the different capitalist firms, multinational corporations compete to get more profits. They compete with each other, but they also compete internationally and rely on their home states to protect their foreign assets, their access to markets and resources and cheap labor. So they mobilize militaries to protect their foreign assets, and they come into conflict with each other. And that's how we get terrible wars. World War I, World War II are classic examples, but we've had Cold Wars where we fight this through proxies. That's what we've done since World War II, and really never stopped. I mean, Russia may not claim to be socialist anymore, but they're still a rival. They're another capitalist power that has, they have companies with overseas interests, not to the scale we do, but that generates conflict, and conflict generates war. So if you want an enduring peace, you should have a socialist society where the point of having economic assets is to cooperate in producing what we need and making sure it gets to the people who need it. So it's fairly distributed. Right now, like take healthcare. In this country, we have a capitalist healthcare system. So healthcare is not something you get as a human right because you're a human being. It's a buy or die commodity. And if you're not covered and you can't afford it, you're out of luck.
So let's get into, you know, going up for presidency. I'm going to ask this, and with no offense at all, right? Going into, right, running for president, right? We kind of already know this is like a two-party country where most of Americans is either, you know, Republicans or Democrats. So coming into it as a Green Party and it being a newer party as well for people that is learning and still growing on, was your mindset that you were going to win, or did you know you weren't going to win, but just wanted to kind of get out there?
Well, we had three objectives. One was to get more people aware of us and recruit them into the Green Party, build the movement, get enough votes to get ballot lines in states so that we can run down ballot candidates in the next election cycle, and to get our demands into the public debate and supported. And that's where, you know, we were basically blanked out by the corporate media and even the progressive independent media. But you look at the polls, you know, Biden and Trump were against Medicare for all. Fox News, conservatives did a exit poll on election day, asked people if they wanted government-run health care, which is a way of phrasing it to get a low yes turnout, but they got 72% said, yeah, that's what we want. So that's an issue where we were with the majority of people and Trump and Biden were opposed. Same thing with the Green New Deal. Same thing with cutting military spending and spending more on social and environmental protections. Same thing on a job guarantee. If you can't get a job in the private sector, you go to the employment office, not the unemployment office. And there are public jobs for you to do, meeting community needs in social service or public works. These are enormously popular programs, and we never got the chance to really articulate it in the debate or in the media, because this year, more than usual, it was anybody but Trump. It was a referendum on Trump. So everybody center to further left was saying you got to vote for Biden or whoever to beat Trump, and we can't waste our time on a third party that we may like, but we can't afford to vote for. And we knew that going in. We knew it was going to be really tough, but ballot lines, you know, recruiting more people to the party and trying to raise these issues so they don't get lost. That's what we tried to do and did to a certain degree.
So without me trying to be biased, because I did vote for you, right? But when you read what you are about, when you read what your party is about, right, the Green Party, you would think, why wouldn't anyone and everyone want this? So in your opinion, why doesn't anyone want this? Why do you feel like it's so hard to convert the blue and red to green?
Well, first of all, the largest group of people now are independent. They don't like the Democrats or the Republicans. But when you come to an election, particularly a presidential election, people are looking at, they either love Trump or they hate him. And so the Greens are irrelevant to that. And in fact, to the people that hate Trump, we may be a problem because we will split the center-left vote and Trump might get back in. That's what people were thinking. So while they might like our platform, they're voting against Trump, not for the Democrats. And that's what the problem we face. Now, what we're pushing for is ranked choice voting, where you can rank your preferences. You could vote for me first, rank Biden second, and you wouldn't help Trump. And they do that now in 38 cities in 2 states. The presidential election was conducted that way in Maine this year. So we want to expand that, and that will open up politics for the Green Party, because then people can vote for us without being afraid of helping their worst enemy or wasting their vote.
So I got, you know, people, I've been promoting this interview, and I got some questions in my inbox that I wanted to review and go over before I ask. I want to go over LGBT rights, and I know that your campaign is for our LGBT rights, but personally speaking, I want to hear your standpoint on LGBT rights, and if you were president, how would you go forth in making it better for LGBT rights, the LGBT
Yeah,
community?
well, those rights are human rights. People should be free to be who they are and free from discrimination. So the Equality Act, which just again passed the House, is very important. We got to make sure that gets through the Senate and is enacted in law. And then at the top, you need somebody not like Trump who affirms people's rights to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, in the whole spectrum. And, you know, that changes the culture. And I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, look at marriage equality or same-sex marriage. You know, it was the Greens that pushed that. When Karl Rove was putting it on state ballots, trying to mobilize the right against the Democrats, we were performing same-sex marriages in New York and New Paltz, a Green mayor and a deputy mayor in that town or that village. And, you know, the Human Rights Campaign and sort of the mainstream LGBTQ people were saying, oh, you're going to provoke a backlash. But no, we provoked a movement. And the Democratic liberals, you know, Obama had to evolve. Clinton had to evolve. At the time, Elliot Spitzer, the sheriff of Wall Street, got an injunction against our mayor and deputy mayor performing those marriages. But, you know, we were on the cutting edge on that. And I think once people started thinking about it, even conservatives like Dick Cheney, right? He's got a lesbian daughter. Very conservative guy, but he was telling the cultural conservatives, leave my daughter alone. And I think, you know, that's why I'm optimistic that we're going to get the Equality Act passed and have much better attitudes in society about people who are in so-called sexual minorities.
So I want to ask you, in campaigning, what is one thing I feel like we can always evolve, right? I feel like we're given these journeys for us to learn from so that we can either, if we not say fail, but if we go through them and don't succeed the way we want to, we can learn and go again. So in your presidential campaign, what do you feel like you have done better or differently that can have led to another result or a better result?
Well, you know, these are sort of technical campaign things. I think we could have done better at raising money earlier to get the primary matching funds that we were the only campaign to qualify for and apply for from the Federal Election Commission, which is an issue right now because the Voting Rights Act, people are talking about For the People, H.R. 1, a lot of good things about voting rights in it, but it has a campaign finance provision that will increase fivefold the qualifying threshold to get those matching funds, which is going to price the third parties out. And it's really hard to raise that issue because H.R. 1 is our defense against all these Republican bills, 250 of them that have been introduced in the states to suppress the vote of people that tend to vote Democratic, like Black people and Chicanos in the Southwest and students on campuses. They find all kinds of ways to make it harder for those folks to vote. This H.R. 1 will make it federal law that they can't preempt with state law. So that's important, but there's also the campaign finance issue in there that I wish could be addressed better. So, you know, in our campaign, we didn't qualify for that until the last moment. So we really weren't able to take advantage of it. So that's one thing. And, you know, I don't know if we could have done better in trying to get into the media. We were pitching our stories, and you just never know. I mean, we had young volunteers. If we had been able to hire somebody with media connections and experience with the network news, the cable news, and so forth, would it have been better? You know, that's just a question. We had a guy for a state attorney general campaign here in New York, Green Party. He was a former anchor of a TV station in New York City, and his candidate, the attorney general candidate, was a guy that had been covered by the New York Times for 35 years. He's the guy in, if you ever saw that HBO miniseries, Show Me a Hero, he's the hero. He's the lawyer that fought for desegregation in Yonkers. And then when this guy ran for attorney general as a Green, suddenly New York Times stopped covering him. And this TV anchor was told by one of his friends, yeah, we just decided we're not going to cover the Greens this year. This was 2018. And I think that's part of the Trump era, because a lot of people were voting for Cuomo, who's a conservative Democrat, and they're telling me, these are people that supported me the previous cycle, that we got to support the Democrats to get back at Trump, even though Trump wasn't on the New York ballot for governor. I mean, that's just how much Trump distorted people's thinking. So that's another thing. You know, media and money are kind of the way you get the word out. And, you know, we did the best we could. Could we have done better? I think that's, you know, the question I have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you did amazing, honestly, for how the cards were dealt. I think you did amazing. You got the word out there, at least to people who really care for this country, especially for our kids coming up, you know, who have to live in this country when a lot of these, you know, laws are in place and things of that nature. You definitely touched my soul in your campaign, so much so that I voted for you. And I know so many others. I see so many amazing comments, you know, go for Howie and stuff like that. I would like to talk about a little bit of things that you are doing now. I know you do your own lives with Angela, and you guys go live and you still go on and doing your amazing work. So how has that been? And explain to the people where they can go and find that at.
Sure. They can go to the Howie Hawkins 2020 Facebook page or the Twitter account, and that'll give you links to the live stream. It may be on the website under the events section. The website is howiehawkins.us. And it's going great. I mean, you were talking about us reaching people. Social media is the way we reach the most people, given the COVID pandemic. I mean, we could just sit here and, you know, tweet and do Facebook posts and do these live streams, which Angela and I have been doing weekly since probably May. And we have a steady audience, and it reaches thousands of people. And people, you know, they're writing in the comments, I wish we could do this every night. I think that's more than Angela and I could handle, but, you know, we get a good response. So we're doing another one tonight at 8. And so people are welcome to tune into that. And we talk about the issues of the day and answer people's questions.
Amazing, amazing. I have another few questions here. You spoke on, there's a couple things, and then I'm not going to keep you because I know you're busy. You spoke on reparations. If you were president, you know, you will be working on reparations. Can you explain a little bit more on that, and how would you have gone about getting the African American community the reparations?
Well, I think H.R. 40, which calls for a study and the development of proposals for reparations. A lot of people say, oh, it's just a study. No, the study is to come up with proposals. And the proposals is, one thing, they need to have hearings. The Black community needs to speak about what they want, what they consider reparations. Reparations, repair, make whole, that's what it's about. There's a debate about how much of it should be individual reparations and how much collective reparations. When the modern reparations movement got revived by James Foreman, when he made demands at Riverside Church in New York City, he demanded that the churches and synagogues fund a land bank for to recover Black land for Black farmers in the South, publishing and broadcasting institutions and companies, so Black people could, you know, talk to themselves and to the public about their needs and their thoughts. Black educational institutions. I mean, they had a whole bunch of institutions he wanted to fund with reparations. So that debate needs to happen. I think you need both individual and collective reparations. I mean, you don't have to go back to slavery. Look at the fact that Black America lost half its wealth after the Great Recession. You know, all those houses foreclosed by predatory lending and foreclosures. I mean, those houses were stolen by the big banks. That's just in the last decade. And that, you know, That was corporate crime. How about reparations for that? So all this has to be studied. And to me, it's common sense. I mean, this country was founded by settlers who stole land and brought in slaves from another continent to work the plantations. And that was the foundation for the wealth of the country. And there are a lot of negative legacies of that. So it's in the interest of all of us to put that behind us by making things right. So I think what a president can do is be a cheerleader for that process. That, you know, this is going to bring us all together. And, you know, the thing about collective reparations, there are a lot of people, white people, that are being left behind, whose homes were stolen, who lost their jobs because factories went overseas. And if you rebuild urban communities that have been devastated, they may be predominantly black, but there are white folks in there too that are going to benefit. So there's something, I think, for everybody in this. And we're becoming, every ethnic group, every color is going to be a minority pretty soon if we're not there yet. And so we got to learn how to live together and overcome the, you know, what was wrong in the past. So I think this is it's a way to, it's not just a material thing, it's a psychological or a social thing. So that, you know, people feel like, you know, we've taken account of what happened, and now we're going to, you know, move forward together in a better relationship.
I love that answer. I love that. One last political thing, and then we're gonna end it with a personal question that I like to ask all my guests. Control over the police, right? Police brutality, especially on the African American and minority community, has been, I mean, through the roof, right? And it's now exposed due to the camera phones and stuff like that, but it's been happening, right? How, as president, you know, would you have changed that around, and what are certain things that we can do as a community to help change that narrative?
Well, I don't think we're going to have the police serving the community instead of themselves as long as they police themselves. So when they assault people, when they kill people, when they're corrupt and commit their own crimes, they're going to get away with it because they're judging themselves. So we need community control of the police, which the Black Panther Party brought up in the Bay Area when I was coming up in the Bay Area in the 60s. And the idea there is you have a police commission elected by the people, or it could be selected by lot, like juries, that has the right to hire and fire the police chief, set the policies and the budget, and independently investigate and discipline officers for misconduct. So there's an independent process, not a, you know, a group judging their own people. There is at the federal level a move, for example, to change use of force policies. I think it's called the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. That stuff is fine as far as it goes, but you have to understand, if you have a ban on chokeholds and a cop uses a chokehold and kills somebody, and then the police department internally decides whether to hold that officer accountable, you're not going to get accountability, because we already had that in New York. They banned the chokehold in '93. In 2013, Eric Garner was choked to death. And the officer that did it was never disciplined by the police department. So now the president, because this is under local jurisdiction, can't order community control of the police. But the Justice Department can provide guidelines, carrots in the form of funding to help make this transition in communities that want to. So it can be encouraged from that level by the president. And I think the analysis people don't make at the federal level. You know, they're talking about as if it's, oh, we just have wrong use of force policies and the qualified immunity issue. It's more than that. It's the fact that the police police themselves. And as long as they do that, they're going to cover up their crimes. So we need community control.
I mean, that makes so much sense. I mean, it makes so much sense. It seems like it's common sense, right? You know,
Yeah.
Your answers, I just love your brain, and I think that's another reason why people are gravitated to you. You're so genuine in what you speak, and we can hear the passion in your voice when you speak. So 2024, we're running for president, right?
It's too early to decide. Right now, we're just trying to follow up on the campaign, see who else is out there. You know, the Greens in New York may tell me I got to run for, you know, governor or senator here in 2022. Then we'd have to go through that and see, you know, what it looks like, because we lost our ballot line here in New York. We got to get it back in 2022. There's a lot of things could happen between now and then. But I'll put it this way. I'm available if needed, like I was in 2020. It wasn't something I started out to do, but Greens asked me to, and I agreed. So that's where it's at.
I think honestly, you know, my mother and of course life and, you know, education has taught me the definition of insanity is doing something over and over and over, expecting different results. And I think you're the different that we need so that we can get out of this insanity that we're in. Because we've been doing the same thing over and over and over, and we keep expecting different things. But I think you're someone that America needs for change as a president or not, because I still think you're doing your due diligence as a man out here, as an American activist, as someone that is really fighting for the cause with that title or not. So I respect that wholeheartedly, honestly, Howie. Hawkins, like you are someone that I truly am inspired by, motivated by, and I truly am a supporter of yours.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think if we had a bigger platform, a lot of people would agree with you. And not because of who I am, but because of what we stand for.
Exactly.
I think we stand for what majority of people want on a lot of these issues. And so that's another thing that gives me optimism. At some point, we're going to break through.
But we're here, we're watching. And so my last question I have for you is, if you can go back in time and tell yourself one thing, what age would you go back to and what would you say?
I guess when they first asked me to run for office in 1993, and I agreed, it was for a city council seat here in Syracuse. And I would go back and tell myself, be careful, because they're going to ask you to do this every year. I've run 25 times now. It was never the plan. So I guess I'd have gone back and said, you need a plan for this. Otherwise, you're just going to be, you know, out here every year running a campaign by the seat of your pants. I think that's what I go back and tell myself.
I know that's right. Howie, honestly, Mr. Hawkins, it has been such a pleasure. It has been such an honor to talk with you. Honestly, you are doing an amazing job out here, just being who you are, fighting for what you fight for. I thank you because we need more and more heroes like yourself out here fighting for what's right. And it's people like you that give us hope that America can go back to where it is or where it needs to be. We got people out here that are really out here fighting for us. And honestly, it's a blessing to see true, genuine people, politicians like yourself, because you know that politician word has such a negative stigma attached to it. But, you know, I don't get that when I talk to you. I feel such a positive ray. And, you know what I mean? I support you, president or not.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your followers. And yeah, that's what we're out here to do, you know, make a difference. And yeah, I unloaded trucks at UPS because I wasn't a professional politician. This was more labor of love. So now I'm retired. I got a little pension, so I'm at it full time.
Look, and look at the change of a UPS driver has now run. It has ran for the president of the United States. Like that gives people motive. Just that alone gives people motivation to let you know that you can do exactly what you set your mind to, as long as you go out there and try. Again, Mr. Hawkins, I thank you so much. Please, before you go, let everyone know how they can become a green and where they can follow all your social medias and stuff. Things.
Well, to become a green, they should get a hold of their local or state Green Party. And there's a National Green Party website, gp.org, where they can find contacts. If you have trouble, my campaign can help you too. And we want to help people get hooked up. And our website is howiehawkins.us. So you can write to us from there, and we'll try to hook you up.
Amazing, guys. Make sure y'all go howiehawkins.us, Howie Hawkins 2020 on Instagram, and Howie Hawkins, I believe 2020 on Facebook as well. Make sure you go, follow, support, subscribe to the Green Party. Just at least hear them out, because if you read and do your search on it, your research on it, you will understand what this whole conversation was about. Howie, thank you again for being such an amazing individual. God bless, and we are here watching. We are here watching.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, Howie Hawkins was just on the Royal Couch. Wow. Guys, this is a monumental day for me, guys. Thank you all for who was watching, all the comments in that we have gotten. Guys, thank you for the lovely messages. Please follow this page, The Royal Couch, guys. We have amazing guests. We have amazing celebrities, entrepreneurs, socialites, all your favorite people on this site. We are here every Monday and Tuesday, and sometimes we do an occasional Thursday. So make sure y'all tune in next week. Thursday, actually, we have Jerome coming in. It is going to be super lit. Another media mogul. He is out here on Fox Soul. He has done so many things. Guys, make sure y'all come and support. We're here Thursday, the 4th, guys. Make sure y'all are in the building, guys. Subscribe to our YouTube, our Facebook. You can Google The Royal Couch. That's DAROYALCOUCH, guys. And that is the end of our show. Love you. 9 o'clock, guys. 9 o'clock Eastern.